Welcome back to English class. Today in this class we are going to see the 7th lesson, The Girl Who Was Anne Frank, written by Louise D. Young. It was written by Louise D. Young. And have you heard about Anne Frank? You may have read about this Anne Frank's diary. Okay. So this list starts with a question by one argumentative student in one philosophy class, how the human race is worth saving. So the question goes like this, how the human race will be worth saving? How can we do something, or what is the importance of this human race? That argumentative student asked this question. For that question, this philosophy professor, he has given one answer. I have read Anne Frank's diary. So, okay, he has given I have read Anne Frank's diary. So before going to the lesson, we should know what was Anne Frank's diary. Anne Frank's diary has been published into 19 languages, and it was played as a drama in different stages, and it has made into a film by 20th Century Fox. Okay, yes. And millions of people, they have seen this drama, okay, in different places, different countries. And so before, see, this much importance people has given, or popularity this Anne Frank's diary has got. So we have to know, we should come to know what is this Anne Frank's diary and what she has written in that diary. So before going to that, you should know who is Anne Frank. Anne Frank was the second daughter of a Jewish man. His name was Otto Frank. Otto Frank, he was a Jewish child. Otto Frank has two daughters. The first one is known as Margaret. The elder daughter's name is Margaret, and the second one is Annelies Mary. Her name was Annelies Mary, and with love the people, they will call her as Anne, and sometimes they will call her as Tender One. Okay, Tender One. And their life was going, they were living in Germany, and when this 1933, when Hitler came into rule, that time he has produced one decree, declared one decree, that is anti-Jewish decree. Anti-Jewish decree. So according to that rule, decree means it's a rule, it's an order by the head of the government. And the decree, so when he has produced this decree, anti-Jewish, that time these Jewish people, they have to emigrate from this Germany. So they immigrated to Netherlands and they settled in Amsterdam. Netherlands, they settled in Amsterdam. There, this Otto Frank, he was doing some spice business. When this business was became dull, what happened? Otto Frank, he was forced to reduce the salary of his staff. But nobody has left this Otto Frank, because Otto Frank, he was an admirable person. Everybody liked his warm personality, and what care he was giving to his daughters, especially about their education. So everybody liked this Otto Frank, and nobody has left this. And everybody was ready to help with this Otto Frank. And so when we are coming to the 7th paragraph, we can see how this Anne Frank, when she was a child, always her father was telling, she was not like a Margaret. Everybody promised Margaret, okay, everybody told her she is a promising girl and she is very active. But this Anne Frank, she was not in very good in studies, but okay. And everyone was telling she is a talkative one, especially her father, Otto Frank. He was telling she is a very talkative one and fond of clothes. Whenever she is getting her friends, girlfriends, she will be talking full time. That's why this Otto Frank, sometimes he has been escaped to bring that family for one outing on a holiday. Okay, because these people actually Jewish, this Adolf Hitler, he was on the rule that time. So these Jewish people, they had no this right to go outside. Okay, so somewhere they are, wherever they will be there only. Okay, so because of her friendship with others, Otto Frank and his family, they were not going for outside on holidays, and so their life was going on like that. And in 1940, what happened? This Hitler came into rule on Netherlands also, and these Franks were trapped. So that time, what happened? And Otto Frank, he decided early, when if any problem if comes there, they have to hide somewhere. So along with his business building, his company, he had made some derelict rooms. In that derelict rooms, that means it was attaching to his company building, business building, and that building or that wing was known as Annex. This term is very important. It is known as Annex. So when this Hitler, he came into rule and he declared, and he was searching this Jewish people in Netherlands also. This Otto Frank and his family, they were forced to hide in one building. That building is known as Annex. Okay, and it was there was a reason. Actually, that time Margaret, she was called for deportation. Deportation means forcefully, if anyone is forcing to emigrate from that place, okay, to leave that place, that is known as deportation. So Margaret was called to present in front of this Nazi regime. So what happened? One teenage girl, how Otto Frank can send her. So what Otto Frank and his family decided, they decided to hide in one place that is known as Annex. It was a new wing attached to this old building, okay, or it was on the upper floor of this company or that business building. So it was very derelict rooms. Derelict rooms means not sufficient light, okay, very thin rooms where there not sufficient place, not sufficient light, okay, and that rooms were very secret also. If anyone is watching from outside, they cannot identify one room was there. Okay, so like that he had made very secret rooms. So they planned, they decided to hide in that room along with the one, with this Otto family or Frank's family. One Van Dam family also was there. Van Dam family, and there were 8 members hiding in that room. Who was Otto Frank, his wife, 2 daughters, 4, Van Dam, his wife and his son, 3, then 7, then one more dentist. Okay, one dentist also was there in that annex. So 8 members were hiding in that annex. Okay, students, and they had no connection with the outside world. Sometimes, very secretly, this Otto Frank's staff, they were bringing some food, magazines and something, and this one otherwise they had arranged one radio for these people, and one typist, okay, actually who was helping this Otto Frank and Van Dan's family, two typists of this Otto Frank's company. They will secretly, they were bringing food, magazines, books and everything. While hiding in this annex, Anne Frank decided to continue her diary writing. On her 13th birthday, what happened? Otto Frank, he has presented her one diary. Okay, so she started to write in that book. Whenever she was writing, event has got over, she was taking Margaret's chemistry book and she was writing in that book also. And she wanted to keep these diaries a secret one. And what she was writing in this diary, she was writing her tensions, and she was writing her loneliness, she was writing her feelings, thoughts, loneliness, longings, her quarrels, everything she started to write in that diary. And here she was comparing herself to a songbird. She was comparing her to a songbird. In this lesson you can see some subtitles, and first subtitle to a songbird. She was comparing her to a songbird. How? One songbird, and that bird's two wings it has torn. She was telling like this: I feel like a songbird whose wings have been brutally torn out, and that bird is flying utterly in the darkness. And while it was flying, it was against the bars of its own cage. That's what's the meaning of the sentence. As a teenage girl, 12 years or 13 years girl, how she can spend her times without these friends, how she can spend her days not going to school. Actually, in the beginning of this lesson, her father was telling she was talkative, and she liked to spend her time with her friends. Now you just imagine, if we have no freedom to go outside, how one small girl can spend. And she started to write her thoughts, her loneliness, her tensions, her quarrels, everything. And after 2 months, she had filled every pages of this diary, and she has very secretly she was keeping. And this Otto Frank, she has given a briefcase to her. So she planned to keep her diary in that briefcase. So her life was going on like this, and in that diary she was writing how much she loved her father and her grief against her mother, because her mother, she feels her mother does not understand her, and she was writing the first rapturous kiss what she had got from this Van Dan's son Peter. And so she was writing like this, and secretly she has kept her diary into a briefcase, Otto Frank's briefcase. And what happened? One day, suddenly, this on August 1944, suddenly this Nazi soldiers, they reached in this Otto Frank's house in this annex, and these people, they were trapped. Okay, so today in this class we will go with this about 14 paragraphs, and the remaining part we will see in the next video. Okay, so this is the time for reading. Let me read first. And how do you know that the human race is worth saving? An argumentative young student once asked his professor. Said the professor, I have read Anne Frank's diary. How this diary of a teenage girl came to be written and saved is a story as dramatic as the diary itself. No one foresaw the tremendous impact that the small book would have, not even her father, who had it published after Anne's death in a Nazi concentration camp. Concentration camp, Adolf Hitler, he has made some concentration camp. In that concentration camps, these Jewish people, they were treated very badly and they were killed in that concentration camp. The Diary of Anne Frank has now been published in 19 languages, including German, and has sold nearly 2 million copies, made into a play by Francis Goodrich and Albert Hackett. It won the Pulitzer Prize for Drama, and in the 1956-57 season alone played in 20 different countries to 2 million people. In London, it ran for nearly 6 months at the Phoenix Theatre. 20th century turned it into a film. So this is the description of the popularity of Anne Frank's diary. To understand this amazing response, it is necessary first to understand the girl who was Anne Frank. When Hitler came to power, Otto Frank was a banker living in Germany. He had married in 1925. In 1926, his first daughter, Margaret, was born, and 3 years later his second, Annelies, married. She was usually called Anne, sometimes Tender One. In the autumn of 1933, when Hitler was issuing one anti-Jewish decree after another, Otto Frank decided to emigrate to the hospitable Netherlands. He started a small firm in Amsterdam. Shortly before the outbreak of war, he took in a partner, Mr. Van Daan, a fellow refugee. Refugee means the person who was forced to leave the country. So, this Mr. Van Daan also, he was forced to leave that place, and he reached in this Netherlands, Amsterdam. Mostly they traded in spices. They were running that company. Business was often slow. Once Otto Frank forced to ask his small staff to accept a temporary cut in their modest wages. No one left. They all liked his warm personality. They admired his courage and the evident care he took to give his 2 girls a good education. As a pupil, Anne was not particularly brilliant. Most people believed with her parents that Margaret, her elder sister, was more promising. Anne was chiefly remarkable for the early interest she took in other people. She was emotional and strong-willed. Sometimes question may come, how Anne Frank was? She was strong and emotional girl. Okay, strong and she was an emotional girl also. Okay, strong-willed one, and she was one emotional one also. Yes. Her father once told me, a real problem child, a great talker and fond of nice clothes. Life in town, where she was usually surrounded by a chattering crowd of girlfriends, suited her exactly. This was a lucky fact because the Frank family could only rarely afford a holiday, nor did they own a car. When the Nazi invaded the Netherlands in 1940, this point also very important, they invaded Netherlands 1940, the Franks were trapped. Earlier than most Jews in Amsterdam, Otto Frank realized that the time might come when he and his family would have to go into hiding. He decided to hide in his own business office, which faced one of Amsterdam's tree-lined canals. A few derelict rooms on the upper floors, called the Annex, were secretly prepared to house both the Frank and the Van families. Early in July 1942, Margaret Frank was called up for deportation, but she did not go. Straight away, the Franks moved into their hiding place and the Vandans followed shortly afterwards. 4 months later, they took into their camped lodgings another Jew, a dentist. So here we are going to the subheading, Songbird in Hiding. There were 800 people. Who were they? Otto Frank and his family 4 members, Van Dam and his family 3 members and 1 dentist. Any sound, any light might betray their presence. A tenuous link with the outside was provided by the radio and by 4 courageous members of Otto Frank's staff, 2 of them typists, who in secret brought food, magazines, books. The only other company they had was a cat. While in hiding, Anne decided to continue a diary which her parents had given her on her 13th birthday. She described life in the Annex with all its inevitable tensions and quarrels. But she created first and foremost a wonderfully delicate record of adolescence. That word is very important. Adolescence means teenage, okay, teenage or the before 12-13 years, okay, adolescence. Sketching with complete honesty a young girl's thoughts and feelings, her longing and loneliness. I feel like a songbird whose wings have been brutally torn out and who is flying in utter darkness against the bars of its own cage. She wrote when she had been isolated from the outside world for nearly 16 months. 2 months later, she had filled every page of the diary, a small book bound in a tartan cloth, and one of the typists, me, gave her an ordinary exercise book. Later, she used Margaret's chemistry exercise book. Her diary reveals the trust she puts in a wise father, her grief because as she feels it, her mother does not understand her. The ecstasy of a first rapturous kiss exchanged with Van Dan's 17-year-old son. Finally, the flowering personality eager to face life with adult courage and mature self-insight. On a slip of paper, Anne wrote faked names which she intended to use in case of publication. For the time, the diary was her own secret which she wanted to keep from everyone, especially from the grumpy dentist with whom she had to share her tiny bedroom. Her father allowed her to put her diaries in his briefcase. He never read them until after her death. Really, students, it is a heart-touching lesson. When we are going to the next parts, we will see how Anne Frank was living in this world. How many problems, tensions, everything she has got in her life. Okay, so that explanation will be in the next video. Okay, see you next class. Bye.